Hello, welcome to this fire chat. We're gonna have some time together, just to chat and about this very hot topic in 2023. And so I'm really glad every one of you is here. Ricky, Shivani, Florent, and Salman. Very happy that you guys were able to join this fire chat. And so we're just gonna be talking just like friends are talking to each other about different, whatever you want to share, basically, right? So if you want to talk, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'll just put you up here in the video so you can start talking. So why don't we start with we're going to be talking about AI and the Web3. This is the topic today, and why don't you guys introduce yourself, and we can start with the girl, and then we can go to the guys after that, and just tell us why you're in Web3 and why do you think AI gonna revolutionize the Web3. Just real quick so we can get started, and then I'll have some questions to share with you guys, and maybe just to brainstorm and some thoughts. But if you guys have some ideas you want to share, feel free. So
All right.
you
Thank
go
you. Thank you
ahead.
so much, Matten. Thank you so much. And it's really great to be here on this platform and talk to everyone over here on the panel. I see like everyone is so much into the Web3 space, and getting into this technology is really amazing, because the kind of expertise that gets you into this technology is really out of the whole space. So my name is Shivani. I am founder and director of Cleep Technologies. It's a cyber security startup. We basically deal with security in Web2 space. Now, when we see the world is moving towards Web3, and so many decentralized applications are coming up, DeFi applications are coming up, so we felt the need of security in this space as well. So that's when we entered with Secure Web3, and we started dealing with security of Web3 and how we can protect ourselves in the metaverse.
Nice. Thank you for the introduction. Florian, why don't you go?
Yeah,
You
for
seem
sure.
ready.
Hi everyone. Very happy to be here with you to share this panel. So I'm the head of blockchain into the Deep Square project, and what we are trying to do is to build a decentralized high performance compute grid. So all this huge trend now with generative AI is really something boosting boosting us and boosting the team during this bear market, and we see great opportunity into the space. And I have to say now that we have the testnet up and running and I'm able to request some workload on this infrastructure, I find this super cool that I don't need to give my email. I don't need to give any information to anyone. I have just my client side private key, public key pair. I get some tokens and I'm ready to go. I can submit a Docker. I can launch whatever I want. And I really feel empowered by this. And this is really something that we don't feel when you go to ChatGPT, because where is this running? Who is getting all the data? How is this all happening? This lack of transparency, I think, is something which the Web3 can potentially solve. And
Yeah,
I'm very happy to see that there are cool people here trying to help on that side.
very nice. Thank you for the introduction. Ricky, go ahead.
Hello. Matt, and thanks so much for the invitation. Great panel a
Absolutely.
couple days ago on the future of work. Excited
Yeah.
to talk about AI and its impact on all this. My background, I come from creative storytelling. I really moved over onto the business side of Web3. I dabbled plenty with Wall Street Bulls, if you can see it. Was actually the first NFT I bought. Mostly comedy, no utility, didn't expect it to go up in value, but thought it was fun and a good excuse to learn how this stuff works. And then I really started spending more of my time on the experience layer. So solving this problem of screen fatigue and virtual communications being really disengaging. There's only so much time you can spend with 2D talking heads and boxes. How can we make that more immersive with 3D virtual world building? And so that's really been my focus, is working with brands to help them engage with their employees, with their customers, with their investors. I'm working with a company called Engage XR, which is a virtual reality platform entirely focused on corporate use cases. And then I also run the Metarik brand, which is a podcast and speaking opportunities and thought leadership on LinkedIn. And really the goal with that brand is just to seek to understand. The reality is none of us are experts. It's too early. All this is emerging technology. The variables change every other week. But people like the folks we have on the panel being active participants in the conversation and talking about it, building different tools based on their expertise, that's how we get there. That's how we get to things that can become industry practices and standards. I've got a million thoughts on AI, but I don't want to hog the mic too much and then say all the right away. So I want to give
come
Salman
back to it.
to introduce himself first.
Salman, go ahead. Your mic.
All right. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you, Matan, for the invitation. Yep. It's always a pleasure to be part of these wonderful panels where we seek to learn and to share value. I come from an architectural background. I studied architecture and started, falling in love with the world of Web3 as soon as NFTs started going mainstream. And I thought later on when the metaverse launched, when Meta launched their metaverse, I started, looking into the metaverse, looking into what it is, and being an architect, what could you do other than go into metaverse as an architect and open up an architecture company? That was our main focus at the beginning with meta designers. That's what we wanted to do. But soon enough, we felt like we weren't doing enough. There was still a lot of scams going on. People didn't know who to go to for services. And it's a new technology. So what we later on did was we thought about building a platform that serves as a bridge. And that's what meta designers became. I'm currently the founder and CEO of a company that brings brands into Web3 and connects them with trusted service providers in a very hassle-free and easy way. Concerning AI, there's a lot that we're going to talk about, I'm sure. Got a lot of mixed thoughts on AI, and there's a lot of opportunity, of course. Ricky already knows.
Great. Thank you for the introduction. We have about an hour, so we have until like 4:10, which 4:10 UTC, guys. Okay. Anyway, so obviously we can't talk all together, obviously, because we can't hear each other. So if you want to jump in or something like that, just raise your hand. I can just move you up, and then we can go ahead. So maybe when anyone get started with some sharing about AI and how it's gonna change the web that we know today. Like who wants to get started with just sharing their thoughts around AI and maybe the integration of Web3 as well?
Right. I would like to add something. Maybe I can start the conversation ahead. Because I am into the transition phase from Web 2 to Web 3, and now I am like seeing how the world sees Web 3 from a perspective. Because there are still people I find like who are not aware like how Web 3 has evolved so much and how much we can contribute to this space, and how much Web 3 can help us in creating use cases for enhancing our existing technology. Now, me coming from the security background, from the cyber security space, I have always seen Web3 a little challenging from a front because the lack of standardization that was brought up earlier, that there is none. And then I have felt in Web3 that there is a probability of like attacks such as identity theft. There can be phishing attacks because there is so much of need of authentication in this space, which AI can only bring in, because we can train our AI in such a way where it can help us authenticate such anomalies. It can help us segregate like what where is going wrong and maybe streamline certain processes in a way. So initially, like if I go back in time, uh, we had Web 1, Web 2, and now Web 3. So Web 1 was only, we were just inputting some data and we were just fetching out of it. And then in Web 2, we came, it was like an interaction where social media came up, the bubble burst, where social media started learning from us. And, it is give and take relationship. And now that user experience has been enhanced in the Web3 space, where, I can have that immersive experience where, I can see Forever 21 opening up in metaverse and people going out and checking out stuff and buying from there from the comfort of their home. So I think uh, it is amazing to an extent, but just imagine how much security risk it poses as well. So from the security standpoint of view, I believe AI can be a very amazing technology to automate certain processes, which can help ease out, identify certain anomalies which can harm the space, and we can make the space as a sacred space, a space where we can be without any kind of cyber threat.
Secure, more secure.
Yes, more secure.
Great.
Can I jump in, Matten? Is that
Yes.
okay? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think that I can only speak from the side that I have insights in, right? So I think that when you think of Web3, when you think of the metaverse, kind of the direction the internet's going, there's this spectrum. And on one side of the spectrum is digital ownership. And that's where things like how we store data on the blockchain matters a lot. And that's like the big concept of where the data is stored and who has ownership over it. On the other side of the spectrum, you've got virtual 3D spaces and the experience. And that's more the side that I'm going to talk about just because I know more about it. I think in order for us to really achieve that at scale, in order to have an interoperable metaverse where there's different virtual worlds that interact with each other, AI is a necessary technology for that, because it takes way too much time to design and build 3D assets. It takes too much time to update those environments on an ongoing basis. And the ability to scale creation of content and creation of environments through AI is essential for that. But a problem that happens whenever it becomes too easy to create content is there's a lot of malicious use cases. A lot of people are going to jump in, and we've already seen it, create like deep fake videos of Elon Musk saying that anyone can get free Bitcoin. And they do that with AI visually, but also AI for the tone of the voice, which is going to be huge for the benefits of being able to do automated translations and make it easy for content to be accessible globally. Like there's all these positives. But with every positive comes a risk, comes a weakness. And so it's awesome to have Shivani on here who talks about more of the security piece. And I'm wondering, for this more of a question for the group, and maybe for Shivani specifically, is will the blockchain give us an ability to kind of safeguard that, where we can somehow authenticate like what is AI created content versus what is real human created content? Is there some sort of infrastructure you see us putting in place to help kind of mitigate that risk of deepfake content?
Right. So I think there are 2 points over here. First, the security of blockchain. I think that's one concept. And the second is whether we can identify whether the script is AI written or it is human written. I think that is already existing. Some time back, I was reading a blog where someone has created a tool where you put in you can put in content and it can tell you whether it is chat GPT written or it is written by a human. So I cannot recall the name of the tool right now, but I think I have seen it. Second, the security of blockchain. We first need to understand like blockchain is like a decentralized application, which is like out front, and every transaction over there is like validated and it can be seen. So the smart contracts that are built on that, I think that has made work really very easier. But the security of smart contracts, where most of the security perspective in reviewing the code of the smart contracts, that's the point we need to catch. Because what we can do in security of such applications is to do a very deep dive security of their source code. So once we review the source code and we feel like the smart contract, the blockchain security, the decentralized application is secure and the code is rock solid, I believe like we can safeguard the application. and also the authentication issues that happen. I think we can train AIs, we can have some algorithms trained by AIs which can help us identify whether uh, there is a malware attack, or like if some kind of virus or trojan is getting into the application. AI can train, we can sandbox that environment and get it trained, so AI can use that data and it can be put out in production and see how it is behaving. So I'm not saying it is not there. People are really working on it, and I'm actually very new to this space. And the information that I have is through my own research. So I have seen how people can train this in the sandbox environment. They can use AI for threat detection, like continuous monitoring of the application. So security is something which is not a one-time job. I think it has to be very continuous, laid down in the layers of the process of any application that is built. Whether you build it on a decentralized blockchain, maybe public or private blockchain, or you're developing it through a code. I think either way, security has to be layered and it has to be imbibed from the SDLC cycle that we follow and not bottled up.
Mm.
Yes.
Maybe
Go
I
ahead.
can add something. Thank you, Shivan. And like when I think, because you said like this thing GPT, we can discover if something is written by ChatGPT or not. And the thing is that it's always a fight, because when you design an algorithm that can do deepfake, then you can know that this is deepfake. But then you will use the information to improve the algorithm so that you can generate deepfakes that cannot do. So it's basically it's a loop, and it's the same thing with
Absolutely.
security, right? So I think we will have to accept that, and there will be always times when new things will come out, and then it will create some threat where we will be unsure of what we see out there, and then at some point some people will trick the thing and we will be able to discover. But I think we will have to to deal with that and to accept it as a reality. But then the other thing I was finding interesting, Ricky, what you were saying is that you were saying this digital ownership on one side, right? And then you have those worlds running on the other side. And one thing I discovered when we were working on the Deep Square project is that the world you have are not running on blockchain, are not linked to blockchain. They are just running on some server, and then somehow they do the link, but this link is not a Web3 link. There is no tokenization of this thing. And then what I was seeing, because one of our community member is a developer, a game developer, and what he was able to do is to launch some virtual world on Deep Square, but you launch the world with tokens, right? And then when there is no more token in the wallet, the world will shut down. And then if you go on the web page of that world, you see the address, and if you send some tokens to that address, the world will just pop up again. Because the thing is that that's the beauty of blockchain, is we are tokenizing this world. So we know for what we pay. We know what's happening. It's not just because it costs money to run a virtual world and a virtual reality environment.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to work, because then it becomes super interesting when you can start to link the smart contract of a special digital asset in 3D, and you want to basically embody it in a character that lives in a virtual world. How do you do this link? Would be fantastic if you can use some tokenomics, and that the tokenomics of the first project can interact with the tokenomics of the other one, going through a DEX and getting the right token and then throwing them there, and then bam, you get your little avatar popping up into your world. And I think this is really the future we should try to look for, to really reach this empowerment. Because one thing is that, I don't know if you agree with me, but blockchain was a bit like closed on itself, right? It's very hard to get information from the outside, but now we had the Oracle coming, and then we are able to understand also what's happening outside and all this. And I think that's where blockchain will really start to have a real impact. And it should start maybe with metaverse.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things you mentioned there. So the first one is this endless cycle of innovation where like someone hacks the system, then you protect the system, someone hacks the system. I think it's so interesting you mentioned that, because that's something in the gaming industry that happens a lot, where it's there's like a whole industry around cheating. And it's like, I don't know a ton about it, so I'm going to say a very short version. But essentially, there's this whole concept of cheat theory where people hack the games, and there's an entire industry of agencies that are just building code to protect against cheating. But you can't predict all the ways people will cheat. And every time you create a new protection, it offers new opportunities for new types of cheating. And as someone who's played games myself, I remember going into like Call of Duty Black Ops 2, like a really old version of the game, right? And this was a few years ago, but they still had the online version of it that you could go in and like go play team deathmatch or whatever. And all the cheating was at like an extreme where like if you weren't a cheater, you couldn't play because no one's policing it anymore because it's an old game. And it was interesting to see how the second you remove the updating of protections and you keep protecting, then the cheating runs rampant, right? The other thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on is this idea of blockchain in virtual spaces and like that digital ownership extending into virtual worlds. I think there's a valid point there. I think that there's an overlap between the two, where owning virtual spaces does make sense, and like how we store data in those virtual worlds does make sense. But we're kind of in this natural progression. Like Web3 is not a particular technology, right? It's this umbrella term for a time period or an era of technology. And we're not really in it, right? Like we're in the beginning of it, but it's a transition period where really we're more like a Web 2.2, Web 2.5. Like we're kind of realizing that all of the technologies and innovation we've made during Web 1 and Web 2 are getting good enough to create a new era. They're getting so good that the internet's about to change in a big way. And I don't know if there's ever going to be one day we just wake up and realize that we're in that era. It's just something we're all starting to feel the cusp of. And so I think virtual worlds are one where I think it's still there. There's two philosophies. Some people are fully committed to decentralization, and these worlds need to be on the chain in order for it to be the metaverse and create that interoperable virtual world. But then there's other people that aren't completely sold on the blockchain, but they are completely sold on virtual reality and augmented reality. And so these are the active conversations that I think we're still going through. And there's valid reasons on both sides for how to make that happen. Sorry, you might see my
yeah, cute dog. Cute dog.
So I want to jump on that if I can, if I may, Ricky, because you see, like the path we decided to take is a bit an in-between path, because at the end of the day, running on-chain a virtual world, it's impossible because it's super slow. Blockchains are super slow. So at the end of the day, can you really do that? This I don't know. But one thing I'm sure is that I don't want to have one place where I can go cut and then everything will go down. This is the thing I find and not logical. So I think there is the middle path where you let people use what they know, because at the end of the day, if I'm a Unity developer, I'm a Unity developer. What am I learning now? A new blockchain way of designing games? No, I mean, Unity, Unreal are awesome. Let's use them. But my question is more like, where do they run? And is this resilient to failure? And is this also compatible with the tokenization aspect that blockchain is bringing? And I think this is something we can do now, which is good enough to attract people that are doing this in the old fashion, and empowering them by giving them ways to link with other projects in a more interoperable way. But I think it's, like Golem back in the day. I don't know if you remember 2017, there was this Golem project. They wanted to basically do everything on chain and amazing thing, but they didn't manage. It's very, very hard job to do intensive computation on chain. I think we are very far from that. But doesn't mean we cannot exploit that in a nice way, which makes it a bit more robust, let's say, to failure maybe, or to security threat.
Can AI help you with that? Maybe with putting things on chain? And so, not really.
No, for me, AI, I see it more as something that can replace humans in many different specific,
like little small tasks.
Yeah, tasks, but that becomes more and more complex, right? As we increase the computational capabilities. But using AI to simplify something, maybe it will come, because you see now how ChatGPT is good at coding. I was playing this like the last weeks. It's crazy. I started a bit, and then I was like, really, can do that? And then a bit more, and then a bit more. And at the end, now I'm coding 80% is coming from ChatGPT. Yeah, you need to be a developer to use that way. Yeah. Because you need to understand what's happening. But if you understand, it's like having a developer somewhere, but he's just answering right now, and you get that. So maybe there will be a time where you will say, hey, AI, I have this thing here running off-chain. I would like to have an algorithm that suits with a virtual machine optimized for this type of workload, and bam, it might come, huh? Might come sooner than we expect.
Can you ask ChatGPT to make a blockchain layer 1?
Yeah, this could be. Yeah, maybe you can. Yeah. A simple blockchain layer one, that might be possible. Let's try.
One thought on how AI might help solve that problem, though, and like I don't know if it'll actually make it easier to get everything on chain, but we're already seeing this with video, where like traditionally live stream platforms like Restream, like up until a couple of years ago, 720p was like the max you could get, even in a world in which we consume most content HD. If you're
Yeah.
using like On24 or like any of these webinar platforms, 720p was like the standard that they could offer.
Yeah.
And that's because you're broadcasting, tens of thousands of people, the same piece of content live at the same time. And now we've just got to a place where people are really more expecting 1080p HD, but they want 4K. They really want 4K. And the way AI has been a part of helping solve that problem is you don't actually stream in HD or in 4K, but what you do is you stream in 720p and then you use AI to essentially alter the image to up-res the quality so it appears more like 4K. And you end up with a 4K-esque quality, even though it's not technically 4K.
Yeah.
This is a big thing we used in the virtual event space, where one of the things you guys might have experienced hosting this event is it can be really challenging to get headshots from all your speakers and all of the people that are attending the event. It's a hassle. You got to email everybody individually. You've got to get them to find a headshot. Maybe they don't have a good headshot. Maybe it's really low res. It's a nightmare. And using this AI, you could basically take a LinkedIn photo that might be like a mediocre quality image,
Yeah.
and then up-res that to a high def image pretty quickly. So that might
That's
help
true.
keep file sizes small
Right.
while still giving us a good output.
That's a very good point. Simon, do you want to chime in a little bit and share
Yeah.
some thoughts too?
Of course. First of all, about the interoperability and standardization. I believe that to achieve interoperability, to have the metaverse as a set of ecosystems that are interconnected and that you could go from one to the other, we're going to have to reach a certain layer of standardization. That is very important. I just wanted to chime in on that. And I wanted to chime in on the importance of AI in creating a real-time language processing. Let's say we enter the sandbox. I have someone who speaks a completely different language. Let's say I have another person who speaks Arabic right in front of me. That person could talk to me in Arabic and I could understand them in English.
That would be
using
amazing.
AI real-time processing. And the thought of that just creates an extra layer of amazingness into the metaverse. And it creates an extra layer of connection between people and globalization. That's the way the AI could be used to create value. Another thing, go ahead, Florent.
Yeah, because this is an excellent point, Salman, because like if you see how ChatGPT, ChatGPT behind the scene is using DeepL, and DeepL has already 27 language, right?
Yeah.
And then if you like text to speech and speech to text are some things that are standard. So when I was playing like 3 weeks ago with ChatGPT, I wanted to do something where instead of writing, you just speak to your web, you have a button speak, and then it answers, and then you just add a translator in between, and you can already do that.
Yeah.
Like in 27 languages. So I think you are right on the point, but it's something which is now doable very easily. We would have asked this 6 months ago or 1 year ago. We would have said, "Oh my God, good luck. Yeah, you want to do a startup with that? Okay." But now you get a proof of concept in 1 week, right? So this is, I think, a very, very good point. Yeah.
I mean, just like there's Ready Player Me for avatars, there could be a new startup for real-time translation.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, by the way, there is this already exists. And it's great. So there's a couple use cases for it that have been really impressive. So when I was at Touchcast and we were doing virtual events, this is actually a feature we had in our platform for not just artificial intelligence creating closed captioning in different languages, but also dubbing and being able to give the voice in different languages. And then also, not only that, but we could take like 1,600 sessions and then automatically cut down and summarize every one of those into articles and then categorize those articles with subheadings. And then be able to turn all those articles into videos or all those videos into articles. Like AI is allowing you to repurpose content in a way we've never seen before. But the other use case for that I think is extremely interesting is dubbing for things like Netflix. That's a huge barrier for us to consume amazing content. Like there's a famous quote from the guy who, I hate myself for forgetting his name right now because he's a great director, but Parasite, Snowpiercer, really famous director from I believe South Korea. But he has this quote where he's like, if we could just overcome 2 lines of text, we would be opening our eyes to some of the greatest art in the world. India has an incredible film cinema history. Ireland, Sweden, like all these parts of the world have created amazing movies for a very long time. But if you can't get over closed captioning or dubbing, you don't have access to it. So there's an AI tool, I think it's called Blanco, but basically it won't just translate it, it'll actually edit the mouth to match the new language that it's supposed to be speaking in, so it feels more natural and there's less distraction. So that something like Squid Games, the reason it's the most watched thing on Netflix ever is because they invested so much in getting the translations right country to country, and the cost and the time of doing that manually with professional linguists is insane. If you can leverage AI to solve that problem in real time for live conversation, talk about global inclusivity and a whole new way of sharing ideas. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up.
Inclusion is very important. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I actually agree with Ricky. And, I have personally seen, like, the use case of, this technology that is mentioning, like AI, speaking and, editing them out. It has been used by a lot of marketing companies as well, to cut down on their work, because now the work is easy. They just have to put in the script, and then they have the AI who is ready to read out the script, and their video is ready. And I think most of the companies are benefiting from this, because less work and more productivity. So
Less cost
this
too.
is a very, yeah, less cost too. Absolutely,
Right?
This
Less
is a
work,
very,
less cost.
absolutely, very huge case. Like, all the social media strategists and all the marketing companies are using right now. But like at scale, AI use cases for I will always come in from the security perspective. The AI use cases for security is also like, updation of security patches. And if the AI is trained in a way where it can detect, like, when the patch has to go live, it can be trained and automatically the patches goes in, and no one has to trigger it, no one has to tell it. It just senses it, and it just detects, and just it recommends the updates to all the systems and make them more secure. And I think that is a very amazing use case. And plus, I think AI can also help in enhancing the encryption and decryption techniques as well, because they can be optimized in such a way where, the encryption keys, to be put in that way, they can detect the potential uh, uh, like how they can encrypt and decrypt the keys, and how they can safeguard them. So this is also a very good use case in security companies, and AI can use.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Even beyond that, and also on the security level, I have nothing to do with the security level, nothing to do with cybersecurity, but there are 2 ways we can leverage AI photo and video processing to, 1, make sure the person behind the headset or behind the laptop or anything is actually that person through biometric analysis. And 2, this is something Rick would like, is analyzing the level of strain that the user has in their eyes. And based off of that, recommending that they turn off the headset. So these are other 2 ways that we can leverage AI through image and video processing.
That's very good. Now, like, that's a lot of things that you guys are talking about that seem to me a little bit of Web2 stuff. But if we're thinking about AI in the future of Web3, like, we have to dream, and we have to think what the use case could be for AI and Web3, right? Decentralization and whatnot.
So one thing I see, is that AI are becoming real agents. As we go, we are interacting in a very direct way with those AI. It becomes more and more direct, and this will not stop. It will be like this and more, right? It's like Tamagotchi, but version 1000. And so how does that work? How does that is monetized? Who has the ownership of those things? How all this works? For me, this is the only place where they can really live their life on the bracket, right? Those AI agent is in something like Web3 in this design, because otherwise you have big problems of sovereignty, of security, of where is this happening, all that. It does not fit, does not work. And so I think that's really where I see the link is when AI will become so complex that we will start to use them directly. And then the question is, where are they instantiated? Where is their home? Where do they live, those little agents? Where are they living? And I think that's where decentralization and Web3 might play a crucial role.
Yeah, this has been an interesting topic recently on the metaverse side. I'll tie it back in, but the concept that it's not the same as like a user on like a SaaS tool, right? Like if you're a user on a software platform or even the social media platform, like you're a user, and that's why we end up with cancel culture and all these trolls that like hate on people without any sort of reservation. And it's because they don't see themselves as humans, as citizens. They see themselves as just a user on a platform. And Lisa Payton is who I'm going to steal this from. She's a professor of XR at University of Oregon, and one of my absolute favorite people in this industry. And she talks a lot about this idea that if you're in a virtual world, you're actually a citizen. You're not just a user. And there's a higher standard for ethics and how users treat each other. You have a responsibility as a citizen to take care of the community a little bit, the same way you do in your neighborhood that you live in the physical reality. It's this blending, like as you blend the digital and virtual, or say the virtual and the physical worlds more and more together, more and more of those ethical guidelines become important in the virtual world, and our standards have to go up. So I think that's a big piece of it. The AI citizens is an interesting concept. So EngageXR, the company I'm spending most of my time working for at the moment, they created an artificial intelligence called Athena, leveraging the same technology as ChatGPT. And Athena is a prototype for a virtual employee that essentially could run your automotive dealership or be your host for your virtual event and interact with it. To your point, Florin, like literally you go up to her and you talk to her and you ask her questions. And what's interesting about it is our CEO doesn't just see it being like a chatbot on a website where you ask it a few basic questions and it responds. It's also the police. Like it also will go around and like say like, hey, you said a word you're not supposed to say here. If you say that again, I'm going to have to kick you from the room. And Athena can be the one to police the environment, make sure those ethical guidelines are being met. Now, where I start to think this gets interesting, and this is where, because we're not decentralized, we're not on the blockchain, like this is an AI that our company has built and put out there, so we host it all. I start to think of things like Westworld, where like you go in and like you have humans and non-humans, and those non-humans get treated in a certain way, and we've seen that plenty with Web2 games and stuff. And so it's like, well, how do we create this balance between human to human ethics versus human to AI ethics?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Anybody wants to chime in? I don't know.
Yeah, like very interesting, Ricky. And I completely veto, like, we have to be very empathetic towards people. Like we stay in a world where we have to be empathetic and understand like how other people are, and creating a culture of inclusivity and that empathy in the metaverse also holds strong. And I think that's a wonderful like thing I have heard. And I could only see, I saw this movie, a guy's life, where he was playing a video game, and that's a world in itself, and the girl becomes a character and goes into it. And I was like, whether it will become a reality so soon that I am like listening it from you now. So this is how the technology is evolving. Like if I learn something today, it's obsolete the next day. So that's how we have to keep up our game. And uh, really nice hearing it from you, Ricky. And I want to bring back to the use cases of AI in Web3. So as I've already highlighted like few points from the security perspective. So I would say like personalization, like thinking about Athena, like how Ricky mentioned, like I think personalization is will be like very good use case for Web3, because AI can help you. It can be used to personalize any user experience in this metaverse, and by analyzing the behaviors, the preferences, or maybe what you should not speak or what you should speak, these recommendations, I think it can very well extend to a lot of personalization and immersive user experience in Web3. So that is how AI can help. And then from the security perspective, I always have mentioned like fraud detection and incident management, that can be really automated, and we can train our AI in such a way where it can be used to detect and prevent any fraud that is happening in Web3. And thirdly, I say like we are good citizen over here, so we have to be good citizens of the metaverse as well. So I rest my case.
Also, you guys, we all been positive and everything, but there is also a controversial and more of a negative side of AI that some people think and talk about, maybe loss of jobs and things of that nature. Maybe you guys want to touch base too.
Yeah, I would love to start this. If I can start this, because this is a topic which is for me so important. Is this for me? I think we all want to be freed from stupid and repetitive work.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that, but everybody wants to have money to feed their family. So then there is a conflict there, because
Yeah.
if the companies are reducing their cost and they don't give back the money, how do you solve that? And when you see that most of the people in our developed countries are now in the service business, right? That though all those work will change, and people will have the same, as you said before, Martin, they will have the same efficiency in one day instead of five, right? So
Right.
how do you handle that? And for me, really, the only way I see to solve it easily is a universal income. I think that's the only path in order to prevent this from being something that will reduce the quality of a lot of people. But if people have other nice ideas on how to to make this not
Universal income, that's a little bit communism,
deviate. No, because you say that maybe as a from your side, but like Denmark is doing this, and many cities are doing that, and they have absolutely no problem. They don't say, one thing we need to all to understand is that universal income doesn't mean that I cannot gain more money than you. It just
Yeah.
means that if you don't want to work, you will get a bit. That's what it means. It means you will never die for food. But if you want to
Yeah.
be a rich guy and have a Ferrari, not everyone can do that. So for that, you will need to work. So it doesn't remove work. It just gives a baseline which frees us and our creativity so that we can really automate things and make things efficient without fearing at all that people will lose job and that. Because when people come to me and they say, no, but you see now when you go to the supermarket, you don't need the people that spend their whole day putting things like that because they are robots. And what my grandma was saying, imagine they are removing the job of that person. I'm like, oh no, but really? This is a good job for you. Isn't it that better that she just stays there and discuss with the people instead of just doing this all day? So we need to have an efficient system so that you can do that in an efficient way to unleash creativity, not to go in communism, because communism was stupid. You had only one type of yogurt, only one type,
Yeah.
only one, and that's it. This is not going to work. No, we need to do that in a way which goes well with capitalism. You cannot break
Yeah.
that, I think, at this stage. So that's what I
But
would say.
but UBI, you're talking about universal basic income. Where is it coming from? Is it a state? Is it a country that's paying
So
it? Is it
I would do
inflation?
it very easily. It's like Microsoft creator, our little friend Gates is saying. It's just that all those AIs, if they are replacing humans, then they can be taxed like humans. And if they are taxed like humans, it means that if the guy that had a worker and then fired the worker and is putting a robot, this robot will be taxed as well. Yes, it will be
Okay.
more expensive and less cost. You see, so that's how you solve this.
I
And
like that.
that's what.
I like that. AI is paying us now. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to do. Exactly. And then we are good to go.
Yeah, we have little robots everywhere, and we're just
Yeah,
getting income.
exactly. And it starts,
But
funny thing, just funny thing. And then I shut up. I was laughing with ChatGPT first time I used it in my life, and I said I want a project mixing blockchain, gaming, and AI. It was blah 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 blah, speaking and speaking. Then I said, now replace into this story gaming by robots, real life robots, because that's what will come. For now, we have AIs on computers, but they will come around us, like you said, Shiva, not only in the metaverse. And so then we were chatting with him, and then I was like, yeah, man, but what you say now, because he was saying with blockchain, like all the data that the robot is getting, he's selling it to other robots and he's doing a business and all that. And I said, yeah, that looks all great, but then how do you do that? The value captured by those robots that are automating everything, how do you make that this goes back to the people? And then ChatGPT said, yeah, one way to do that is indeed basic income. Yeah, this was a funny sentence from ChatGPT.
That's
No,
nice. He told
yeah,
you.
I agree with the Florin. Like, automate, like repetitive tasks can be, replaced by AI, and like how people feel like if their jobs are, in danger because of AI or Chat GPT. I have a take on this. Like, even if you can automate that repetitive task, it cannot still replace your critical thinking. It cannot replace your creativity, and it cannot replace your human skill. I think that's the core that we people are built of. I think it cannot replace that. And yes, it can assist us in a way where we can make our work more productive, we can make our work more efficient, but certainly not it can replace our critical thinking capabilities. I think that's a point where we need to have
Are you,
stress upon, rather than thinking like AI taking up jobs. Yeah.
are you sure? Because
Yeah.
AI is learning constantly, so I feel like they are constantly learning and doing better, and they're learning so much faster than us, and they're retaining it. So I'm like,
Yes.
I'm,
Yes, like they are, like, who is putting that data into them? We are training the AI ourselves. Like, we are putting that data, we are feeding the data to the AI.
but they're
And
also
that's
learning in real life
from
events, from real life
from
events. Like,
yes. Yes, absolutely. They are. I do not deny that, because more and more we feed in, more and more they will. Uh, like, it's just an example. Like, if Chat GPT, if I'm chatting with it, and it will learn from my behavior what I'm putting in constantly, and it'll keep on generating things. And sometimes, normal human being will feel, because of that, my creativity is getting lost, because now I can write better emails, I can write better blogs, and even if I write a well crafted email and send it to a person, now he will he or she will definitely think it has been done by an AI. But I say, like, to an extent, maybe people can fear, but it cannot replace the critical thinking of a human. Human is here to stay. The uh, I say AI can, automate certain repetitive tasks. It can do a lot of work that, 10 people can do, it can do at once. But the core remains the same, the critical thinking, the creativity, and the empathetic factor, the human behavioral factor. I think that remains as is. I can be
yeah,
challenged on this. I'm okay.
let's
But I
Salman,
feel that way.
put your
Yeah,
point.
no, I completely agree. Coming from the creative industry and being a creative, I feel like there are two ways to look at AI. One of them is, all right, it is going to reach a point where it can generate better results than humans at a more efficient rate with less cost. But isn't that raising the bar for us to do more,
Yeah,
to work better?
absolutely.
That's one way to look at it. And another way to look at AI is, and at least until 2050, we still don't have the hyper intelligent AI that has emotions and knows what to feel. At least we don't know of any AI that does that yet. It's not
Well,
mainstream. So
Google had one, but I think
yeah,
they
but
removed it.
it's not mainstream.
No, correct. They don't want
So
to. They want to remove the emotion out of the AI.
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. What our edge is as humans, and specifically as creatives, is emotion. It's what we rely on the most, whether we're writing copy, whether we're designing a space, whether we're doing user experience. we rely on emotion because that's how human beings operate, and that's the edge of human beings over AI at the moment.
So, can I ask a question to you guys? Do you think that, I was thinking like ChatGPT and these kind of things are as stupid as you are when you ask your question? If you try to trick him in stupid things, he will be as dumb as you like. So I was
Yeah.
thinking like, isn't this thing kind of inheriting your own consciousness? You see what I mean? Because when you see people that are jailbreaking ChatGPT, you have some Reddit posts where you see Dan, this thing, do anything now. So you instantiate your ChatGPT with that specific thing, and then you get something which is much closer to a human. He's telling you, I had a lot of work in my life to reach that level of thinking. He tells you these kind of things, and then how can you see the difference between this thing being conscious or not? You are conscious, and you speak with something that understands and is fed by consciousness. So I think it replies with consciousness as well, because the type of interaction you get are very close to something yet that feels like conscious. So I think that's how I would see it. So for me, this, like Shivani, you were saying, like there is a hard stop and we will not reach there. I think we already passed that thing, but it's more subtle than what we were expecting. This thing is not able to understand by itself. It always needs to be fed by us. But when you interact with jailbroken ChatGPT, I'm sorry, but if you put it as a kind of psychologue, you feel it's like a psychologue. I mean, you spend 30 minutes with a psychologue, you speak with him, it's the same thing. Yeah?
One thing I noticed is that ChatGPT will always agree with you. So it doesn't matter, even if he knows it's wrong, even if it's a mathematic problem, and you say, no, my wife said, oh, this, he's gonna agree with you. Like, that's the thing. Like,
but Martin, did you notice that sometimes he doesn't agree? Like you say, John has 3 brothers and he has 2 parents. How many children have the parents? And he says 3. And you're like, no, it's not 3. I told you there is 1 plus 3. He's like, no. I read again. It's 3. So sometimes he's really so.
If you keep saying, oh, my friend told me there was that, or my wife says this, then he'll say, yeah. Then the wife
he will say
right.
yes. Huh? He accepts.
Yeah, eventually you'll accept it, and that will be just the ChatGPT for you. That's the thing is that I learned is that it just kind of adapts to each person, and it doesn't necessarily keep that internally for everyone else. So if somebody else asks the question, he's still going to go back to his original thought.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think I've got a more pessimistic view on this.
I like that. We need a little bit of a.
I think before we can set barriers on what AI can do versus what people can do, we have to think about how people's brains work first, right? So I've been reading a lot of psychology, diving deep into how do human beings make decisions. And this idea of emotion, I come from the creative world too, Solomon, so I empathize with it. I was a professional photographer. I worked with brands to tell visual stories through photo and video for a long time. So I have a really big appreciation for creative and for art in general. But basically the book I'll reference, because it's a pretty well-credited one, is Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. He's a Nobel Prize winner. Great book for anyone who hasn't read it. It's really dense, reads like a textbook, but great information. And essentially, you have the thinking fast part of your brain that thinks impulsively, involuntarily, it just reacts to things. And that's kind of the emotional, impulsive piece of your brain, right? That still is going to make decisions based on association to all of the experiences and data your brain has collected throughout your life, even data that you don't know that you have. Mm-hmm. And then you have the slow part of your brain, which basically justifies the emotional piece and will take more time to think through logic. So you see a math problem, that's the example he throws out. It's 27 times 17. You might not have the exact answer right away, but you're going to know that's a math problem. It's a multiplication problem. I have a sense of what the number might be. That's the impulsive side. And then the slow side of the brain will actually be able to work out the math and get to the answer. Now, if you understand that, and you're like, okay, the brain, even the emotional side of the brain is just associating data and then working really quickly to impulsively react to something. I don't see why AI couldn't do that. Large language models basically are essentially the same thing, except they're much more susceptible to propaganda. Because we still try and human engineer today, right? That's what politics and marketing and all this stuff is basically us tapping in to that part of the brain and putting training data out into the world to get people to think differently. With AI,
fake news.
Yeah, fake news, exactly. AI is just more susceptible to that because it's code. It'll actually take the training data, and that's all it'll take, and it won't recognize anything else exists until you start talking to it. And we've seen that with existing GPT models. They're incredibly biased towards the left, for example, a lot of the time because they're developed by Silicon Valley, very skewed left political leaning, implicit biases, right? And so I think in the short term, I agree with everybody. Like most of these AI tools aren't going to replace creative. They're going to raise the bar for creative. They're not going to replace everybody's jobs. Like humans historically have always found more things to do whenever we create a new technology. So in the short term, AI is going to be an amazing tool to get rid of all the shitty jobs and give us better things to do with our time and level us all up. The long term, though, I mean, you can't replace this till it can. And the reality is we're not building something that's just a tool. If it reaches that super intelligence, we are not building a tool anymore. We're building the next species that conquers the earth and potentially more than the earth.
Yeah.
We're replacing ourselves in the food chain with something else. We're replacing it with something that can think 20,000 times faster than we can and will continue to be able to instantly scale. So the second it exists, it's done. Like we lost, right? Like we don't know if it'll kill us. We don't know if it'll turn us into batteries, if it'll keep us as pets. We have no idea what'll happen. But the second that it exists,
we need to be
top.
prepared. Yeah, we need to be prepared for Age of Ultron. We need to be prepared.
And honestly, I think it's hard to picture a world in which we don't get to that point unless computing reaches a plateau and we just run out of chips. That's the only way I see us not getting there is basically some sort of chip war. Someone blows up the wrong factory and puts us back 20 years. And people start to look back on this era the way we look back on the pyramids. And like, how'd they do it? I don't know. We lost everything.
Ricky, one thing I want to just emphasize on what you said with GPT and these biases. For me, it has thousands of biases. The question is, what is his contextualization? And what the developer are doing with ChatGPT is contextualizing it in a way that feels them, makes them comfortable. But all the guys playing and jailbreaking this little toy, they can make ChatGPT be whoever they want. You can make him be a right-handed guy sitting, blah, blah, blah. You can do whatever you want, and you can go very far with that. So I think it's more like it can be anything. And then the question is, where are you in his big brain? And then, yes, the developer of that tool, they choose a very specific location. And then with this, they can force us to think one way. And this is also a reason why we need to free our tools, to get those tools out of those centralized things so that we can run the way we want them to run and prevent censorship. But I think they are multi-biased because it's impossible to create a data set that is only biased left-hand side. No.
Yeah.
They had a lot of things, but afterwards they tried to put it in a place that was making them comfortable. So left indeed.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And it ties into the importance with a lot of these Web3 conversations around like inclusivity and accessibility around the world. Because if only like a couple of countries build all these tools, then even if we're not trying to be biased, we will be because we just don't have the same problems or the same perspectives that other places do. Like there's some languages that made words that don't translate into other languages. They defined a term that they felt the importance to define that we didn't feel. And I was just having a great discussion the other day with, I think it was Lynn Gatto from Kenya, where the conversation was very interesting, talking about the barriers for the infrastructure in Africa versus the barriers in the US are very different. Like here, our biggest barrier is, can you get a headset in someone's hands and a gaming PC? Over there, it's like, what areas can you get an internet connection? Where can't you, right? Like it's a totally different set of variables, but having their perspective, getting them accessibility is super important to make sure that we build a tool with, like, we're never gonna get rid of all the bias, but like something that's as comprehensive as we can get needs those other perspectives.
Yeah.
So we're coming down to the end. It's been a great fire chat. I love everything that you guys talk about. Maybe we can do just one quick last closing thoughts you want to share, just and then we'll end this live.
Hit
Cool.
a
So,
Meta-Rick on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, check out the podcast. If you're curious about VR, hit up Engage VR. Happy to give anyone a demo. I'm only a month in, so I mean it when I say I just want feedback.
I
If it
would
makes
love
you
to.
buy it, cool. But if you got a headset and you've got an hour to kill, I'd love to walk you through it, hear all your thoughts. And otherwise, just
Definitely.
thank you, Matten, and thank you, Web3 Stronger Together. This has been a great event, and you guys got some awesome speakers and good conversations rolling.
Thank you. Here, why don't you go, Shivani?
yes, thank you. Thank you, Matten. It was great panel discussion, and I had really great fun talking to everybody. Though I met everybody for the first time, I would just say as a parting note, like let's use AI to make Web3 a safer space and make applications secure. And if you have any doubts regarding cybersecurity in Web2 and Web3 space, I am Shivani here. You can connect me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help. And it would be great if I can connect to Ricky and do a podcast together. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. Salman, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Web3 Stronger Together, for having me. I absolutely loved the conversation. Looking forward to a lot more. Follow Meta Designers on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. And if you're a brand looking to enter Web3 and want secure service providers, go ahead and visit our website. One last thing I want to say, pull the plug on AI. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for the invitation. And WAGMI, we are all gonna make it, guys. During bear market, that's just the beginning. Take care.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for talking. I really appreciate it. I want to thank the whole team behind Web3 Stronger Together. And let's keep building together. And for now, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.